Welcome to All Home Care Matters, the show where we discuss all things home care, with discussions on important age-related matters and topics. Brought to you by Enriched Life Home Care Services, the #1 rated home care provider in Michigan by Top Rated Local.
Hello, and welcome back to All Home Care Matters. If this is your first time visiting us here at the show, we want to say thank you for taking time out to be with us today. We appreciate how valuable everyone's time is, and that's why we try and make each episode here at All Home Care Matters something that will hopefully matter to you. Today on All Home Care Matters, we're doing something a little bit different. I'm being interviewed by Marianne Sciucco, the co-founder of AlzAuthors, and Christy Byrne Yates, speaker, author, and coach. They're both the co-host of Untangling Alzheimer's and Dementia to talk about my book, The All Home Care Matters Official Family Caregivers Guide. Welcome. Thank you so much for being here today, you guys.
Great to be with you. It's great to see you again, Lance, as always.
Yeah, absolutely.
Always a pleasure. This is going to be a little bit different today. I am going to just sit back and you two are taking over the show. So it's over to you.
So Lance, the reason we wanted to interview you is because you have written a book and we are all about books over at AlzAuthors.com. So I received a copy of your book, which I had the privilege of reviewing. I don't know if you can see that. It's kind of backwards. Anyway, congratulations, because we know how difficult it is to put a book together and to get it out there. So kudos to you. In the midst of everything else you do for caregivers, you managed to write this book for them, which has many wonderful qualities. And one of them is the fact that it's brief. It's not a giant tome. It gets to the nuts and bolts of caregiving. And it's not something that I think people will feel overwhelmed by. And it covers everything that you really need to know to start your caregiving journey, and with resources to help you dive deeper into some of the issues. So congratulations on a job well done.
Yeah, congratulations. It's great. I can't wait to get my hands on it. I have looked at the Amazon's reviews and all the pieces, so I'm really excited for you. This is really perfect. Yeah, so now you're an AlzAuthor with a book, and you're part of the group now. You're part of the whole
We're in the club.
bevy, the whole cohort. It's awesome.
I get to sit at the adult table at Thanksgiving, finally.
Yes, right. You have arrived.
I have arrived.
Yes.
Badge of honor. So a book like this, especially for somebody in business like you, Lance, is your calling card. And you can use it in so many different ways, to give to prospective clients or, people that, need more information. So let's talk about you and tell us what it was that motivated you to finally put this book together after, I don't know how many hundreds of episodes of the podcast.
Yeah, sure. Well, thank you both. And Christy, I will have a copy sent to you. Just send us your address and we'll get it out today. Really, you guys, one being, Marianne's heard this a million times if she's heard it once. We've always been big supporters of AlzAuthors. Before there was an All Home Care Matters podcast, early on in our creation of our family business, Enriched Life Home Care. And, I always admired and respected the fact that you guys didn't just take books to take books. They had to be vetted, and then you went even above and beyond that. Then you would categorize them. This book is for if you have a spouse with dementia. This book's if you're a child taking care of a father with them. I mean, the list and the categories and subcategories go on for days. But you knew what you were getting was really authentic and true. It wasn't just putting a book up to put a book up. I've always had a passion for writing. I write for several different news sites and different things. And, it's probably been playing around for 2-3 years where I said, all this writing I'm doing is wonderful and it's great resources, but you really got to be on the internet to access it and to find it. And, because we don't really produce or publish them on a blog, they're on news sites. When the news cycle is over, then the article gets kind of buried and lost and forgotten. So it doesn't make it very convenient to find. So I said, it'd be great to just kind of take a book and compile a lot of these resources and information and put it in paperback and get it out to families so that they can just have it at their fingertips.
Yeah, that's terrific. And you know what comes to mind for me thinking about you writing this book, which I know is just a great resource for people, is you not only come from the place of understanding caregivers because you work with them in your business and you're there to support them. You've been a caregiver, we know, and you've got this podcast that's amazing, and you talk to so many people about all of these issues. So I'm curious how much of all of that kind of is in the soup. You know what I mean? That's like, how'd you put it all together with all these different personal,
Yeah.
professional resources?
So I really, Christy, had the motivation to write the book through the lens of what I wish I had when I was taking care of my father.
Bingo.
That was really the driving factor. What I wish I knew then that I know now. Marianne said, it's very convenient. It's like 110 pages paperback. I think 120 in digital. It could have been multiple volumes if I took everything, and kind of put it all pen to paper, so to speak. But I wanted to make it very digestible. I didn't want it to feel overwhelming because, as you both know, when you're caring for a loved one, you're already overwhelmed. You don't want that one next thing on your plate to have to deal with. And so it's really written in stages too. It's like I was talking to somebody the other day. If you go on a road trip, if I was coming out to California, I would need a map when I pull out of my driveway. And just because I'm halfway to California doesn't mean I don't need that map any longer. I still need it. So even if a caregiver's kind of, in the thick of it, so to speak, and they've been caring for a loved one for multiple years or what have you, the book will still serve a purpose for wherever they're at in that journey. And that was really the idea behind the book. No matter what you're going through or where you're at in your journey, it could still be a helpful resource, or I hope it will be anyways.
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah, that's awesome. And I think that's a great perspective to come from. Like, what did I need? And that's because, and then you have heard from so many people what they need. They ask you questions. They talk about it on your show. So that's really terrific. I'm sure this is great.
Yeah, thank you. One of the things that we did include towards the end was kind of like a resource section, appendix, if you will, where, and I don't know, Marianne, being a nurse, if you encounter this, but when we meet with families, we'll say, does mom or dad have an advance directive? And they just kind of look at you, that deer in the headlights. What are you talking about? And so we explain that, or does mom or dad have a living will, or, all these different things that you may end up needing at some point in your caregiving journey. And it's helpful to know what it is before you need it too, because once you need it, and some things aren't as easy to obtain, or, an advance directive may not be possible if mom's deemed incompetent, so there's all these different things to really think about that most families, myself included, wasn't really looking at down the road. I was looking just at present day,
Yeah.
Yeah, and the time to get those together is before catastrophe strikes.
Exactly.
And a lot of people don't realize that once there's a stroke or there's some kind of head injury or dementia has progressed, then people are becoming competent. They aren't able to sign, and that creates a huge dilemma for families, can become very expensive.
Yeah.
So it's good. You don't know what you don't know until you get there. And that's kind of the whole crux of the problem, especially in dementia care, is that most people going along day to day with their lives and routines, and all of a sudden something happens and now they're in charge of this massive problem. They don't even know the first thing about where to go, what to do, what do I need? And that's what makes it so overwhelming.
Right. Absolutely.
Yeah. And that's I think that's part of the roller coaster of life, right? I mean, this is something I talk about with people all the time is, first, in some ways with our kids, we have some somewhat predictable milestones. Even if our child has an illness or a disability, there are some, there's some understanding of what we might be able to expect. And certainly anything can come along and shake that up, Kids have accidents. But what is hardest in aging is things like illness and accidents and falls. These are all things that sort of befell our older folks. And something like that happens and you don't have any idea what they want or need, or hoping for in the end. where are you going to go? Right. So it's really important to have those conversations often and early and often, I always say.
Yeah.
You might have to revisit them, right? What you want at 50 might not be what you want at 80. So you have to talk about it.
And
Yeah.
when you mention children, like versus parents, like your children, you are responsible for them, in charge of them every minute of the day. You know them in and out, but your parents, you don't. You know, you may be estranged from them. They may live far away. Maybe you only see them at holidays. You don't know all the details of their private lives, their personal lives. And so it can be very daunting trying to enter into that. You know, even to ask questions, people can be, they don't want to answer the questions, or they may not have answers themselves, but they feel like you're prying and you feel like you're prying. So and Lance covers that in the book. He talks different strategies for how to have these kind of delicate conversations and introduce topics that most people don't want to even think about. So that was very helpful. Yeah.
So good.
That's very helpful.
I think, one of the top 3 most challenging things that we encounter that I try to touch on in the book is identifying that a parent needs care, because there's so many families that we come across and, their intentions are pure, they're positively, driven, but there's some naiveness or blissful ignorance there because, they are trying, and I don't fault them for this whatsoever, but they're trying to respect their mom and dad's wishes and also their integrity, their dignity, and their independence. And, the writing's on the wall. Mom needs help desperately, but the children don't want to cross that threshold of taking that dignity or that respect or that independence away from mom. And it's really, sometimes it's kind of a tough love. I mean, we love our children, but we're not going to let them sit there and eat 3 bags of candy right before bed and not brush their teeth. I mean, it's one of those things where that doesn't change the love or respect, for your parent, but sometimes you got to step in because maybe there's something cognitively going on. Maybe there's a depression, any number of things. And the parent, even though they may seem fine, they're not cognitively aware or able to identify, okay, I do need some help. They're not taking their medications, or they're taking their PM meds in the AM, or any number of things. And so really deciding and identifying that a parent needs care, I think, is really the hardest and the first step you have to take.
Oh, 100%. And I would say, I would just call it out as denial, because I rode that river of denial. Let me just tell you, I had a barge and I was traveling down the Nile, right? It was just denial, because I was making excuses for my mom. Well, she's just worried about my dad. It's anxiety. It was all these things. And really, it was Alzheimer's. So I finally had to, and once I got that, and it wasn't years and years, but I really beat myself up about being in denial, because I was a school psychologist. I did cognitive assessments on kids all day long, right? So I'm like, why wasn't I able to? And why? Because I was her daughter.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. And so when I had outside geriatric case manager come in and do an assessment, the things they pointed out to me, I'm like, wow, yeah, okay. And then they also alerted me to what was most frightening to them, is my mom was mixing up my dad's medication, and he was on a whole bunch of things. And they were very worried about that. I just thought, well, gosh, that's a bummer she keeps doing that. But I mean, I didn't get the seriousness to the same extent they did. So it's important. And so I think you're spot on that, Lance. So many people just, for so many reasons, not bad reasons, not because we're bad or stupid or lazy, just because we're human and we overlook it.
We don't want to see it because we have so much of an investment. And then, sometimes when you realize that something's happening, it's going to have an impact on your life. It's all about change, and people don't like change.
Yeah.
Things are going to change now. There's a situation here that, it's going to affect my parents. It's going to affect me and my family, my lifestyle. It is like so many different dynamics.
So Lance, where are you taking this book? Like, how are you getting it out there? And I know we're going to be pushing it here at AlzAuthors, but what other avenues are you pursuing to really get this valuable resource out to folks?
It was one of those things, Christy. It's kind of a two-part answer. One, when I wrote it, there was never any grand plan or strategy in place. It was just, I want to write this, and, didn't think about what next after that. Marianne and I were talking, and it's true. It's really easier to write the book than to promote the book, right? And
100%.
so it's really just been in the last couple of weeks that I started really thinking about, okay, how can I promote this and let people know it's available, and doing things with you and Marianne today, and there's a couple other shows that actually reached out to me and wanted to have me on to talk about it, which is great. So things like that, and of course social media. But I'm always open to suggestions because this is brand new to me, and I didn't really go into it with any plan in place, so I'm kind of learning as I go.
Yeah. That's good. I mean, being open to learning as you go is perfect because, I don't know, Marianne, I learn all the time from Marianne and the other founders and managers at AlzAuthors. Like they talk about things. I'm like, really? I didn't think about that. I should do that. It's great. So talking to other authors who are doing things is so important. And so yeah, now you'll get in on all those interesting things in some of our Facebook groups and with the authors. It's great, but it is important to think about that sometimes. And I don't always promote my book either. It becomes an interesting thing how you do that. But that's awesome that you're getting on different shows, and you certainly know a lot of people with podcasts. It'd be great for you to get on a lot of those, right?
Yeah, and we certainly can direct you to some book sites and things like that too, that you might not be aware of.
That'd be great.
And I'm going to send you an invite to join our Facebook writers group. We have a private group for the authors where we talk about, writing, marketing, and publishing.
Okay, wonderful.
So, yeah, you can post questions there, and people are really responsive and helpful.
You always have a stack on hand, right? It's in the trunk of your car at all times.
Yeah, it was, it's funny because, when it was first printed, and, Marianne brought this to my attention a moment ago, and thankfully I already knew about it. We ordered a few copies when it first became available, and, my wife was looking through it, and she's like, on the top of the page, it's supposed to have the full title of the book, and it only said all home care matters, I think. Yeah. And, so we, got a hold of the publisher, excuse me, and they had to let the printers know. And, thankfully our next order, it had already been fixed, but they had said it could take a while before they get it ready while they had the other printed copies, to go through. So we ordered, I think 6, and the first 3 had the page typo at the top, and the other 3, it was already the corrected version. So that made me feel pretty good that it wasn't a long delay.
Yeah, that's great. That's great to hear. Yeah, it sort of makes your heart stop a little bit, doesn't it? Like, oh my gosh.
Yeah, well, and it's one of those things when I got it, I had somebody proofread it, multiple times before we went to, publish, and everything, was great, perfect. And, I'm not looking at the top of the page, you're just kind of like so glossy eyed reading it over and, holding it in your hand. It was a cool experience, but it wasn't, I never caught that top of the page issue, which is kind of crazy to think about. But, thankfully my wife, she's a good proofreader. So she looked through it and she's like, did you notice this? And so we reached out and they got it fixed for us.
Yeah.
That's the beauty of on-demand publishing.
Yes.
Yeah.
And it definitely serves to have somebody other than yourself to look at it, because boy, what you can overlook as the writer of your own work, I can pick something out of somebody else's easier than I can pick it out of my own. So it's really important to have a good proofreader. Yeah, perfect.
I don't see anything, and and then I print it on my printer, and as soon as I pick the sheet of paper off, my eye goes right to that little typo or comma that's not supposed to be there. It's kind of weird.
Yeah.
We're doing, AlzAuthors is in the process of publishing a poetry anthology, and so we did a couple of proofreads, and it had been done like 3 or 4 times then, and then the final version, I have this one member, Vicky Tapia, who's on our management team, and she's like the worst proofreader. I mean, she finds anything, any errant period, she's on it.
She's the
So
best proofreader.
she is,
It's
but
just
she's-
worst if
they're
it's
like, we're
yours.
done with this, Vicky. We just need you to look at it, make sure it's okay. And she's like, well, here's my edits. And she gives us like a whole sheet of things we didn't see. So, I mean, it was great. So now
Yeah.
that's been taken care of. So we're at the point of buying the review paperback to look at it that way. So it's very exciting.
Real quick, did you guys ever are you still or have you published the 3-word book? You know, that project.
6-word memoir.
6-word
Going to be the next one. Yeah, I'm the person I have putting that together for me, and decided to go into the tax business. So she's kind of been wrapped up with that lately. So I hope I can get in touch with her after today, maybe in a couple of weeks, to see if she can turn those files over to me. Otherwise, I'm going to have to probably end up doing it myself.
Yeah.
That's going to be a nice little volume.
Yeah, that was such a neat project too. Really, really cool.
I love that project. It's still live. I don't know. I think I shut down the entries for that, but I might open it up again at some point once we publish the book, and then that'll be it. I'm not going to publish another book on that. So what's next for you, Lance? What are you working on?
Just trying to stay afloat. We, I mean, the book has kind of been a project in and of itself, since, I'm trying to get the word out there and, share it with more people. We're, as we've talked in the meetings before, Marianne, just seems like there's a new thing that always pops up, but, we're still, working towards getting that streaming platform for our shows up on streaming TV. That's probably the big one. But other than that, I'm just kind of playing with possibly doing a second book, just because it has been such a neat, fun experience, daunting, like you said, but still very fun. And, just trying to continue to share resources and, help support other people however we can.
Yeah, I can't imagine a busier person. You must have a great team behind you to kind of keep it all going. You're like, you looking for them? Yeah, that's what I look for too, is my team. Where are you?
No, we have a couple. We do seriously. We do have a few really great people. Our video editing team, someone that helps us with marketing. Well, Marianne knows Michelle. We do have a team. It's usually me going to them and saying, okay, this is what we're doing. And they just kind of try to run for the door, because it's like, but it's enjoyable. It truly is enjoyable. We get to meet some wonderful people. And, like you said, Christy, we hear some just incredible stories. Last week on All Home Care Matters, we interviewed a former governor, which is just a remarkable story. You guys will have to check that out. And
Who is it? Is it Martin?
What's that?
Who is the governor? Martin?
Marty? Yeah.
Marty. He's been one of our authors for since the beginning of AlzAuthors.
Really?
Okay.
Yeah.
He's a
Great
wonderful
story.
guy.
He, yes, he does. Yes. And just a great person, really personable, great anecdotes. And he's actually coming into Michigan. I think it's this week or next week. So we're going to try to maybe meet up for dinner, which would be really nice. And then this week we're interviewing a former senator. So I'm looking forward to that. I don't know if he's also an author or not. His book is called Releasing the Butterfly.
What's his name?
Max Sherman.
Is it a dementia story?
It is. Yes, it's a love affair in 4 stages, is in 4 acts. So Releasing the Butterfly, a love affair in 4 acts is the name of his book. Yes, his wife was diagnosed with Alzheimer's, and his people reached out, and I guess the story goes, and this is all brand new, so I don't have all the details down, but I just got the book yesterday at our offices, and so I'm going to jump into that probably sometime before the interview. But he had wrote the book back in 2020, I believe, 2019, 2020. But he never really acted on it. He wrote it, but didn't really try to get it out there, I guess, from my understanding. And now he has a PR team, and they're circulating it. And they said he'd love to be on, and we said we'd love to have him. So I'm looking forward to that story. But it's really, that's what the show is, right? It's about telling stories, whether it's, these prominent doctors or researchers or family caregivers, and because it may not resonate with this person, but it might resonate with the other person. So, we tried, that's why it's called All Home Care Matters, is because we find with home care, we're taking care of, people in their 20s, people in their teens, people younger than 10 years old, and everything up and in between with any number of issues or diseases or injuries or traumas. And we really cover the whole spectrum, and so we wanted it to be something for everyone, kind of a jack of all trades, but maybe not a master of any of them, because caregivers come in all shapes and sizes and they face any number of issues. But at the end of the day, they're all a caregiver, so that's what we try to do with our show.
Yeah, that's fantastic.
Yeah, we'll have to check out Max Sherman's book. That title sounds familiar to me. It may already be in our...
Well, if it's not, let me know, and I can connect you guys to his PR person. She's a wonderful lady. We've had a couple of calls so far, and they're just trying to help him get the story out about his wife.
That's beautiful. That'd be great. Yeah.
I
wanted to ask you, how has your book been received? I see that you've gotten a lot of great reviews.
Good. We, again, being new to this, I didn't know you could leave Google reviews for a book. So we've picked up a few Google reviews. We've gotten some Amazon reviews. Though I will say, and honestly, my mother-in-law did purchase the book and left a review. However, and in this I don't understand, it didn't leave it as a verified purchase review. So that was disappointing because now it just looks like, but that happened to a couple of people. I don't know, maybe you guys have some insight into that, if you have to wait a certain period or something. But
verified purchases means they bought the book from Amazon. So if they got the book any other way.
She bought it on Amazon.
Sometimes there's a lag. It is kind of, it's a weird algorithm. I don't know. I had some of those same things. People, and then it took like 2 or 3 weeks after, and then it's weird. Yeah.
Can't stress out over Amazon.
You
can't do anything about it. So
that's true. That's true.
It's hard.
But yeah, and I'm on the board of directors for one of our community senior centers. And so I'm donating several copies to them so they can hand them out to people that come in there. Because, again, we get calls from senior centers, area agency on aging. And, so I'm hoping it will, be helpful to these people I may never know or meet. But, the point is just helping them where they're at in their caregiving journey. So that's been exciting, So yeah, it's been really well received so far, and I will tell you, and this for me is the coolest thing. Right now, it's in over 15 libraries in the world, and for me, that is just cool when you go and it's like you look at, what is it called? Bibliocat, I think is the name of it or something, and it'll say locate your book in libraries across the world, and so I put in the my zip code. No books in our community yet, but that will change soon. But they're all over the country, and I think there's a couple in. There's one in Dubai, I think, or something. I don't know, but I just thought, okay, that was one aspect of this whole process I didn't even think about or anticipate, and then to see your book, these libraries are carrying it. That was pretty cool for me.
Oh, that sounds awesome. I'm going to have to look that up too, because as a reader, I would love to know that it was in libraries somewhere for someone. Yeah, fantastic. Yeah.
So, and if you want to get the book out of your library, this is for the listeners, you need to just go there and ask the librarian to buy the book.
Yeah.
That's what they do. That's what the money's for, is to buy books that people want to read. So, I'm pretty sure I was the trustee at my local library, and I used to have to monitor all the invoices from all the books that were ordered. And I know that they would order books specifically for individuals and add them to the collection. So you can do that. And that would help Lance out too. And there are some other things when we are off the recording that I can tell you about that too, Lance, that you'd be interested in. But we will be adding the book to the AlzAuthors custom caregiver collections.
Oh, fantastic.
Yeah, we buy how they work is people order a custom caregiver collection for their own purposes, and it's can be anywhere from like 12 to 15 or even more books depending on the size. And we create a collection for them to include whatever they want to focus on. So if it's a support group, for instance, I did one for the local support group in my town, and when I talked to them, they said it was mainly women caring for husbands. So most of the books that I selected were for that situation because, that's what they needed. So we kind of addressed the needs of wherever it's going to go. And it can go to like a care home, anywhere where caregivers gather. That's the way I put it. So wherever people are going to be visiting their loved one or caring for somebody, you could have one of these custom caregiver collections of books that people can borrow. And it's really helpful because most people will say when they were on a caregiving journey that there was nothing for them, really, right, unless they went looking.
It's so true.
To look
it's
for
so
it.
true.
Yeah. So we'll add your book.
All right.
Yeah.
It'll be out there in some of them. So that'll be exciting.
It's very exciting. And I know
Very cool.
you guys do such great work. It's just such a added, resource to caregivers. And that's why we try anytime we can just to get the word out about AlzAuthors, because I don't think people realize the depth of the resources you guys have and that you offer families, from the podcast to, your articles you guys do, the blogs, and then your library of books it's endless.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, it just keeps growing bigger and bigger. Like we didn't plan any of it, so we're as surprised as you are.
Yeah.
And Christy, right behind Christy, is one of our custom caregiver collections. She's got one on the shelf there.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what it looks
Yeah,
like.
I love it.
Now, I got to ask you, Christy, what is the blue? Is that?
So here, I'll bring it up. So these are handmade, and
Andrea's book just
yeah. So it's a beautiful little I'm not sure what that material is, but it has a lot of tells you about what the memoirs that we carry have. It's just, and it talks a little bit about AlzAuthors. The other one says something else, and then you can have it engraved. Like my other, so the other bookend looks like this too, and I had mine engraved as a dedication to my mom and dad, since that's where I really got into caregiving. So, a estate planning firm or a financial planner that might want to have some things like this. Like your book would be great for an estate planner or elder care attorney or special needs attorney. I mean, they need resources for their clients all the time, and they can have these on display and lend them, or just to say, here are some we recommend, kind of thing. So there's lots of uses for them. And they can have it dedicated. They can have a little plaque on the back of it. And mine's just a tiny little thing. So there's lots of, it is a custom caregiver collection. So like Marianne said, whatever your particular business is supporting, you can have books that support the community you support. Or for me, I have all of the founders books and my book and a couple other. I'm a big fan of children's books, so I have a lot of the children's books there. So, and I have taken it with me on speaking engagements and had it on a display table with my own books. So I'm always promoting my book and AlzAuthors and things like that. So it's just a great way to get people to see what's going on.
Yeah. It's incredible. I know Jean. I was just going to say, Jean and Marianne sent us one, and I think last time Marianne, maybe it was when we did the interview a few weeks ago. We've given out Jean's book to like 3-4 different people. Well, it started with giving it to one at our church, and then she knew a lady, gave it to that lady, and it's just and that's the thing. People need these resources. It's just making them aware of the resource so they can go get it. And that's the hardest part.
Yeah. And word of mouth like that is so important too. You think you have to do all these major campaigns, and you do. But last night, my son, who lives in Cincinnati, texted me and said, "Mom, I gave your book to, or I lent your book to a friend who was telling me about what's going on for her. And I said, I am so happy that you did that.
Yeah.
Give it to her. I'll send you another one. He's like,
Yeah.
yeah, don't worry about it. We'll take care of it. But yeah, it's nice when people share it.
Oh, it is. It's absolutely great. And that's what we try to do, is just give these resources, because not every family we meet with hires our company to help them. They're just looking for resources. And we tell people, even if you don't need us, use us, in the sense we can give you resources. We can point you in the right direction. You don't have to hire our staff to come and, take care of you or your loved one. We just want to help you get on the right path and headed in the right direction.
Right. Yeah. That's beautiful. Yeah. Very good. Anything else on the horizon for your company or your podcast? And I know you said something about streaming TV, and I loved that. So
yeah, we had talked last summer, and we had hoped to have had it launched in 23, but it didn't work out because we ended up producing 2 new shows. But yeah, we want to have a streaming channel where everybody and anybody that is in this industry, if they want, they can have a time slot and, bring their show on there, use shows that have already been produced, and just have a, kind of a one-stop shop for discussions on all these different issues, from Alzheimer's and dementia to family caregiving, children with special needs, navigating the Medicare, system, all these different things, just to have another avenue for people to find the resources to support them.
that's great. And I appreciate that you also talk to families about special needs kids. I spend a lot of time now with AlzAuthors talking about dementia all the time, but I retired after 20 years of being a school psychologist, and so it's so important, and that's a huge part of people's lives when their kids have special needs.
Oh, it is, and it gets into the issue of when they age out from state assistance. Where's the funding coming from then? Unless you're independently wealthy, there's some hard choices, and then who's going to take care of the child if something happens to the parents prematurely or naturally? There's all these different aspects that, I never want to make comparisons, but taking care of elderly parents, those are issues you won't have to address or really have to face. You'll have a whole different set of issues, right? But with a child, like Marianne said, you know them inside and out. You're responsible for all of their needs. Well, when they have special needs, that doesn't stop when they turn 18. It continues on. And so, that's a whole nother sector. One film I will plug here that we had the producers and directors on is Unseen. And that's the name of the film. And it's, how we're failing parent caregivers and why it matters. And don't quote me on the stat, but I think they had said there's like 17 million unpaid family parent caregivers to children with special needs. And that's a huge number. And that's just like with the unpaid family caregivers for, the normal statistic of 54 million, that 16 to 17 is probably a lot higher than that, but they're unseen because they're not really wanting to get in front of a camera and talk about their child. And I respect and, really honor that. So they're not getting maybe necessarily the resources and support that they otherwise could get.
Yeah. And then another wrinkle, I don't know if have you done anything with Lorenzo's house? That's for early. Okay. So that's early dementia, but then there are over 5 million children who are caregivers to a parent or a grandparent or a sibling. And we think, oh, well, but that's terrible. And yet it's normal, right? We have kids help out all the time. Kids get chores sometimes and whatever, but sometimes it crosses over to be really difficult for that child because they might not be able to participate in after school activities. Okay, I got to go home. I got to take care of grandma. So I can't join the band. I can't play on the sports team. I can't join the debate team. There are detriments to that. And it's because caregiving costs are so extreme and it's hard. So kids,
they basically lose out on their childhood, and
a lot of them do.
And they're forced to grow up a lot faster than they necessarily would have had to if they didn't have to do that. And you're absolutely right. Even it's kind of like switching. If it wasn't a child and it's a, like my wife and I, we were in our early 20s, I mean, I stopped my pursuit of medical school because it was too much and I was trying to help my father, and, it's just, or if you're in your 50s or 40s or 60s and you're taking care of a parent and you're not retired yet, it takes a large toll on a person emotionally, financially, and physically.
Yeah, it does. And I know you know all this because you've been through it. I was thinking of that too, of how young you were when you started this, and even younger than that, caring at times for your grandmother or other people, just being aware of that. And, many people are, and we've got such a big group of baby boomers that are retiring and people, and there's not a whole lot of them behind us. We have nobody was having.
And what's that called, Christy? It's right up your alley.
Yeah, that's the sandwich generation. They are sandwiched, but it's interesting, and it's a numbers game on some level, but it's really going to be interesting to see how we address this as humans.
Right. Absolutely.
Anyway.
All right. Well, thank you, Lance. It's so much to
Yes.
talk to you about the book and get some more of the backstory, because that's what we like to do at AlzAuthors, is find out the story behind the story and what motivated someone to sit down and write their book, which we know comes from very hard-won knowledge. It's being on that caregiving journey and wanting to share what you've learned, because you didn't have it when you started out.
No. I think it's fair to say I don't think anybody does, right? I mean, nobody sits around and plans on how to be a caregiver for a parent, a spouse, or a child with special needs. And, that's the hardest part about it, I think, is you do go into it and you are overwhelmed and you're just kind of stretched so thin and you're trying to make right choices, and then you're second guessing yourself. Is it the right decision? Is this what my mom wanted? Is this what my dad wanted? Which, gets into those advanced directives and, but yeah, so hopefully, we just keep all working together and getting these resources out and doing good work. Yeah.
I'm a nurse and I didn't have the answers. I mean,
Right.
I spent my days counseling people, telling them what to do, but when it became my situation, everything I knew went out the window.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, I was just as ignorant as anyone. And then I realized I had to put my nurse cap on and take my daughter cap off and use what I knew. Yeah,
Exactly. Yeah.
For my own situation. So yeah, even doctors and things, they don't know what to do when it hits their house.
Well, and I think most doctors and nurses don't know what to do when they have a patient's family member sitting there either saying, what do I do? I mean, and that's not a knock against them. It's just they're so focused on their lane and their job, they don't get outside of that. I mean, again, look, with 7 major surgeries with my father, nobody ever said, hey, have you looked into respite? Have you looked into the Area Agency on Aging? None of those things. And I don't begrudge them that, but I just wish that there was a component of our healthcare system where that would be included in the, in the patient discharge planning or, the care planning in general, just to see if there's some missed opportunities to support these family caregivers.
Yeah, having a family support case manager or something along those lines, because that's so important. Yeah, truly.
Yep.
Yeah. Well, gosh, it's always a pleasure to talk with you. It's fun.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Congratulations. We wish you
Yes.
success on the book and the podcast and the streaming channel and all of that.
All right. Well, we appreciate you guys, and thank you so much for everything you guys are doing at AlzAuthors.
Thank you too.
All right.
Yeah.
Bye-bye.
Thanks, Lance.
Bye.
Right. Bye.
Thank you for joining us today here at All Home Care Matters. All Home Care Matters is here to help families as they navigate these long-term care issues. We invite you to visit us at allhomecarematters.com, where there's a private, secure, fillable form where you can give us feedback, show ideas, or if you have questions. Every form is read and responded to. And remember, you can listen to the show on any of your favorite podcast streaming platforms or watch the show on our official YouTube channel. Just make sure that you hit that subscribe button so that you never miss an episode. I would also like to say thank you again to my dear friends, Christy Byrne Yates, and Marianne Sciucco for joining us today. Thank you so much, and we look forward to seeing you next time here at All Home Care Matters.
Thank you for joining us today. We look forward to you joining us again on another episode of All Home Care Matters. To learn more about the show and to connect with us, visit us at allhomecarematters.com.